Hey there, my name's Alex and I've been a gardener for the past 3 years. Not a very good gardener, but I enjoy it a lot and I think that's all that really matters.
I reckon if it rained I wouldn't get wet because this leaf is so big above my head.
During the COVID times back in 2021, I decided to make 4 raised beds in the back garden of my old house. This was my first year doing any gardening and there was so much to learn. It was quite overwhelming actually, but I got stuck in, didn't think about it too much, and I got so much excitement and fulfillment from a year of growing food. When you harvest vegetables that you have grown from a seed, it really makes you appreciate the food so much more. And after this first year of gardening, I have been doing it ever since. Last year was a particularly fun year of growing. I moved back into my parents' house and my dad let me dig up part of his garden and turn it into a vegetable patch. At the start of the year, I put down a load of fresh compost and throughout the spring, I planted a variety of crops. The tomatoes were one of the best things I grew. They were little cherry tomatoes. They were so sweet and I made tomato, basil and mozzarella salad every day. I added pine nuts in there as well and it was just so tasty. It was just the perfect thing to eat in the summer. Later on in the summer came the sweet corn, which was another of my favourite crops, partly because it adds so much height to the garden, they're really tall plants, but also because fresh sweet corn just tastes unbelievably good. You can just eat it raw and it tastes amazing. As well as all the food crops, I also had lots of flowers as well, which brought in bees and butterflies and other pollinators, so it gave the garden so much life. At the end of the year, at Christmas time, I pulled up my parsnips, which grew massive and fed my family over the festive period. I think one of my parsnips weighed nearly 2 kilograms, which was kind of crazy. Now this year my gardening plans are quite different as I moved house again. I used to live near Brighton in the southeast of England and now I live in Bristol in the west. But I'm hoping to still do plenty of gardening. I also plan to get an allotment patch later on this year. So this is the back garden of the house which I rent a room in. A lot of the layout of this garden is thanks to the people who were in this house before I was. Old tenants of the house have built some of the raised beds at the back and planted many of the plants. But I'm quite excited to be able to make my little mark on the garden this year too. So we're lucky enough to have a couple of potting benches where we can put plants, pot plants on and store stuff underneath them. Then basically most of the garden is patio space and seating area, but then there's flower beds on either side. This side here will probably get the most sun, so if I do any vegetable planting, they will go on this side. There's also a brick wall that runs the whole length of the garden, which we can then put container plants on, so that's going to be really handy. At the back is like a 3-layered raised bed sort of setup. There's a few larger structural plants already here. There's a buddleia, also known as a butterfly bush. That thing has really nice long purple flowers that attracts lots of butterflies, I guess. Then we actually have a big tree. I'm not too sure what type of tree it is. It looks like it could be a type of cherry maybe. I am really not too sure. But one of the first things I did when I moved in was plant a wisteria, which will hopefully climb up one of the walls. And then I also planted another climbing plant further down at the bottom of the garden. I've decided that I think I'm going to try and do lots of plants in containers because this is a rented place. I'm not too sure how long I'm going to live here. It'd be nice to be able to take plants with me if I move at some point. So yeah, welcome to the garden. Back in November last year, soon after I moved into this house, I decided to buy a load of spring bulbs and I spent a day planting them into some containers and also some into the ground. I planted daffodils, crocuses, tulips, snowdrops and alliums, and I was excited to see how they would look in the following spring. After that day of bulb planting, I was pretty uninspired to do any gardening. The winter was damp, cold, and I didn't even go into the back garden much at all. But in February, I began thinking about sowing some seeds. However, I didn't know where to sow them. Many seeds need a warm place to germinate, and then once they've germinated, they need plenty of light to grow. My bedroom is north facing, so it gets no direct sun. So I got to work building a grow box. This was basically a ply box that was screwed together with a hinged lid and some LED grow lights. These lights, which were attached to the roof, would enable the plants to photosynthesize, basically acting as the sun. The lights would also warm up the box slightly, which would help with germination, because most seeds need a little warmth to germinate. Last year I bought a fig tree from a nursery that I planted into a pot, and also I planted loads of strawberries in containers too. I'm glad I did this because it made moving them to my new house a lot easier than if I had put them all in the ground. So I'm taking my strawberry plants and my fig tree to their new home, which is also my new home. In here I have some cuttings. When I pruned back this fig tree, I put the cuttings in a pot, so hopefully we'll have more fig trees soon. Anyway, all of these are coming to Bristol with me, where they will live in the garden. We got the fig tree to Bristol. And we also got all the tomatoes, the strawberries into the garden too. It's really heavy lifting, but it's the benefit of planting things in containers if you're not sure where you're gonna live. There's one job I need to do with these strawberries reasonably soon, and that is just tidy up the plants. So there's all this growth that the plant did throughout the autumn and winter. I'm going to cut off all of the old leaves, like all these dead leaves, and all the sort of older looking ones. And then this spring, the plant, before it flowers, will produce new leaves, which will be like the leaves that give the plant energy throughout the summer. And apparently you're meant to do this like twice a year. So in the spring or late winter, you clean the plant up, get rid of all the old leaves. And then once the plant has finished flowering, you do the same thing. It just helps keep the plants tidy and not just like a complete mess and overgrown. I had a massive list of things to do today. I had to tidy my van, tidy my bedroom, tidy up my lockup. Nowhere on that list was sort out the strawberries, but once again I've been distracted, and I guess I've got to make the most of being distracted and yeah, get this job done while I'm feeling like doing it. I always do that. I make a to-do list and then throughout the day other things grab me and say that they need to be done. And I think I can really give these quite a brutal trimming, because it will just create loads of new leaves. And I've got two varieties. I managed to somehow keep the little label. This is Renaissance and the other one is Ostara. Can't remember, but you get different types of strawberries, some which fruit in the spring, some which fruit in the summer, some which fruit late summer, some which fruit all year round. I cannot remember for the life of me what this did last year, but I remember we did get quite a few strawberries once the birds had their share. I'm hoping this year the birds aren't as bad. That's the new leaves that will be growing very soon, and then it will create even more. Now it may look like I've absolutely decimated both my strawberry plants. I've cut all the old leaves off, so there's just the new shoots coming through. But I can assure you that over the next few months, these little leaves here and these small plants will grow and fill out these pots, and it will look hopefully quite impressive. And if we're lucky, we'll get plenty of strawberries this year, and fingers crossed the birds don't eat them all before I do, because that's what happened last year. Most of them got eaten by birds. Anyway, I'll keep you updated with my strawberry plant growing this year. I just spent all my pocket money in the garden centre, and I don't actually feel that bad about it. I think if you're spending your spare money on plants and things that you can eat and growing things, then I just think it's a good investment. I'm trying to justify it to myself. It's the last day of February, and I'm doing what I've done for the past few last days of February, and that is chit some potatoes. This is a seed potato, and chitting is basically letting them sprout a little bit indoors before you then plant them out when the risk of frost has passed. You're basically giving them a head start, and the process is getting an egg box, opening it up, and popping it in there, or I should probably put it that way around because all the little sprouts, the eyes are on that side. The egg box just acts as a holder for the potatoes. These will either go in the allotment if the allotment site is ready, or these will go in the back garden. We are yet to find that out. But there we go, there's 6. And these potatoes are the same variety that I grew last year, and one that lots of gardeners recommend, called Charlotte. They are a second early, which means they're a little bit later than first earlies, but earlier than main crop potatoes. But there they are. These are going to sit on my windowsill. They need light and I guess a little bit of warmth. These little sprouts will get bigger and bigger over the next month. And yeah, I think it will be probably end of March I'll plant them out. They'll actually go in the soil, and I'll put a layer of compost on top so that they won't be damaged by any light frost that we have during April. And then in May, they should be free from frost. I'm excited to see how they turn out. In fact, I don't need 2 egg boxes. I'll just use 1 egg box, but put the other ones on it like this. There we go. And that is their house for the next month or so. Also, check out these plants. I'm gonna try and get these climbing things to go all the way up this string. I've got one there and then one over here. And they grow pretty quick, so I should at some point have plant going like that, plant going like that, and then this one up here growing down. And I got some daffodils out at the moment, £2 for 2 bunches down at the fruit shop. Beautiful. Every day for what feels like the past decade it's been raining, and I'm not happy about it. But today I just got a sudden rush and loads of energy to go to the garden centre, buy a load of plants and do some gardening. I bought some pots, I bought herbs and a blueberry bush. Ever since I went to Sweden a couple of years ago and went blueberry picking, I have really wanted to try growing some blueberries. So I thought I'd buy a bush and some special compost because they need acidic soil to live in, and I thought I'd give it a go. Okie dokie. First thing, chives. In the spring they create these really nice little ball flowers, purpley ball flowers, which look very nice. And chives are great to use in the kitchen. So you can see all the plant's roots, and it won't grow very well if you keep it in that pot. I'm gonna put them in this pot. I thought I'd do 3 different colours of thyme in one pot, so it looks really nice. It's very beautiful. I quite like how that one looks. 3 different colours of thyme. Now the last thing I want to plant today is this blueberry bush, and blueberries like more acidic soil than other plants, and in fact they actually need it to grow well. So I've had to buy a different type of compost for this. Let me go and grab it. Now this stuff is called ericaceous compost. Basically means it's for plants which like acid. Plants like rhododendrons, camellias, blueberries. I don't really know how they make this soil differently, but it is apparently more acidic, which means we can grow our blueberry bush in there. It should grow well. Get you in your new home. There you go, bush. And there we go. Blueberry bush is in the pot. I don't know if we're gonna get any blueberries this year. I don't really know how quick these things grow. But we're gonna find that out, I guess, over the next year. It's time to start sowing some seeds. It's the, I think, 10th or 11th of March. Things are starting to wake up, weather's getting a little bit warmer, and now is a good time to sow seeds ready for the summer. I'm equipped here with a number of these module trays, which is what you start the seeds in. I've got a bucket full of potting mix to put into these module trays. The mix is made up of some coconut coir that I had lying about. Apparently coconut coir has very good drainage. So I added some of that to some just normal all-purpose compost that I got from the garden centre. And then I added some perlite. I think it's perlite. Yeah, it's the type of rock that you can add to your compost to give it more aeration and also hold moisture. So I mixed those three things together in a bucket, and now I'm going to sow some seeds. What seeds do I want to sow? Well, I've got this whole box here full of many different things. Broccoli, artichoke, beetroot, courgette. Yeah, many different things. Not only do I want to sow vegetable seeds, I also want to sow some flowers as well. I've got these nasturtiums which look beautiful. I grew these last year and they just grow so much. And you get a display of flowers all year round. You can also eat the flowers and eat the leaves. I reckon good gardeners have like a proper storage system and like organised box with everything in order, but I just have this little box and everything cramped into it. Anyhow, ooh, another exciting thing I'm going to grow are these padron peppers. These are a really popular dish, I think, in like Spain. Yeah, they're a famous Spanish tapas pepper. I might even be able to grow them on like the windowsill in the house. Fill up all these modules with compost. Now with my special stick, I can poke little holes into the trays and the seeds will sit in. Got to remember to write labels as well. So I've got three types of tomatoes. I've got sun gold variety, a Piro variety, and then also a variety which someone gave me whilst travelling. A lady called Christine from Austria. At an Airbnb that I was staying at, she gave me a load of her seeds that she collected, so I'm going to plant them as well. And seeds are tiny. It's very hard to sort of handle. Each one of those will turn into a great big tomato plant, which I think is bloomin' cool. I'm going to pop one in to each of the holes. And then a little bit of compost over them. Gently press it down. Once I've sowed the rest of these seeds, I will then go with a watering can all over them to make sure they all have lots of water, because not only do the seeds need warmth to germinate, they also need moisture. Moisture, warmth, and then they will do their thing. Let's get on and sow the rest. Now with these salad onions, last year I planted them with like 6 to 10 plants in each module. So they grow together as a bunch, which is kind of handy because then you can pick them as a bunch as well. So that's what I'm going to do this year as well. These are salad onion seeds. They look a bit like small pieces of charcoal. I already have my plant label from last year, which is handy. These same onions. So we've got onions, broccoli, kale, peppers, tomatoes. It's interesting how all the seeds look so different. These are borage seeds. They're quite big. You can barely see the chamomile seeds. They're so small. In this bag here, I've got a load of seeds that I saved from my marigolds that I had last year. They did so well and they went to seed, so I thought I'd pick a load of them. Good old sugar snaps, one of my favourite things to grow. Basil, of course. My fingers are freezing. I'm not even sure if all of this is going to fit inside my grow box. I think that's all the seeds sown for the day. Now we've got to water them all. Now, because it's too cold outside for most seeds to germinate, I've brought them inside into this grow box that I created. There's two, I think they're 32 watt LED lights. I've actually already got some parsley, coriander and rocket growing in here, but this is going to go under the light, where hopefully the plants will now germinate, and then as soon as they germinate they start photosynthesizing. The light acts as the sun and they will grow. There's actually a little bit more space in here, so I might quickly plant up some more seeds. But there we go, that is seed sowing complete for the day. All I have to make sure is that they stay moist. So I've got this spray bottle. Every day I'll check in here, and if it starts to get a little dry, I'll give it a couple of sprays. I'm interested to see how long these take to germinate. There's loads of different species of plants here, and every single one of them will take slightly different length of time to germinate. I'll keep you updated with how the seeds progress. Once these seedlings grow larger, and when the weather gets warmer, they will be planted outside into the garden and also hopefully at my allotment patch. Now, allotments are pretty hard to come by here in the UK, and the ones in Bristol near my house have a waiting list of about 3 years. And although I now have my name on the waiting list, I'm very impatient and I wanted a space to grow stuff sooner than 3 years. Well, my name is on the waiting list for the allotments on the other side of that fence, but it could still be a number of years before I can actually go through these metal gates and have an allotment. And even though I can't have an allotment there right now, it's still nice to see other people doing lots of gardening and growing of food. There's also a load of beehives up here, which is always nice to walk past. Luckily, there's a company called Roots who recently set up a subscription-based allotment service. It's more expensive than the traditional council allotments, but there was no waiting list and I could get growing this year. They have allotment sites in a number of different locations in the UK, and they are in the process of setting one up in Bristol, and I was excited to see this project from the very start. Currently, it's just a field, but throughout the year it's going to turn into an allotment site. The other day I got the chance to help with the first bit of planting on the site, which was an orchard of different fruit trees.
This is quite stony ground, so if you do come up against some stones, then we've got these really long digging spades which are really good for getting through them or around them.
Welcome to the new allotment site. Yeah, it doesn't look like much right now. There's it's just a field. Apart from over here, where there are a number of the other members who are digging holes so that we can plant some fruit trees. That's the first step of building this allotment, is planting some trees. I guess trees are a long-term thing and you want to get them done as soon as possible. I think they're planting a mixture of apples, pears, plums, cherries, maybe some others as well, but welcome to the allotment site. Yeah, what was this field before it is going to be an allotment?
So this field was pasture for cattle, and before that it was used to grow potatoes. It's now going to become a mixed space for food production and increasing biodiversity. So we'll be planting native hedgerow. This fruit tree orchard is just the first steps. Hopefully going to establish a pond at the bottom.
This tree is gonna go in here. Now this is apparently a mycorrhizal fungus liquid. So the fungus will be like living with the tree and it'll help it grow. There's an orchard planted behind me. Thanks to loads of the members of the community, there are 30 fruit trees planted, which will hopefully over the next few years grow into big, healthy, fruit-bearing trees. It's really hard to imagine how this place is going to look in 6 months' time, but stay tuned because we're going to find out. So right now it is the 29th of March and it still hasn't really got that warm yet, which is a little bit disappointing. I would have hoped we would have felt some spring weather, but it just hasn't been that way. It's just rained a lot. But everything in the garden is sort of becoming green again. Everything's starting to grow, and the bulbs that I planted back in November are starting to come out. Well, the daffodils have come out. They're actually starting to die back now, but the tulips are about to come out in bloom, which I'm quite excited to see. I have got loads of seeds planted in my seed growing box, and next time I see you, I'll give you an update and you can see how they are all getting on. And also next time I guess I will be planting some of them into the garden, and will hopefully be starting to do some work at the allotment. So I will see you soon.